My guilt has a soundtrack. It's the endless, droning loop of talk radio news. A self-flagellating rosary of my own disgrace. I haven't listened to music in 6 months. Music is for people who feel they have a right to joy. I only have a right to this. The stale, recycled air of my car. The landscape of fast food wrappers on the passenger seat. And the disembodied voice from the dashboard speakers. A constant, humiliating reminder of the man I used to be. Retraction issued by the New York Standard this morning concerning the exposé on industrial whistleblower Daniel Carver. The voice says, calm and clinical. The piece, written by disgraced journalist Ethan Hayes, has been found to be based on fabricated sources. My hand shoots out and slams the power button, but the silence that follows is worse. It's filled with the ghost of the words, disgraced, fabricated. They are simple, clean words for such a messy, ugly thing. I had a source, a man deep inside a chemical company, who handed me a story on a silver platter, a story about Daniel Carver, an engineer selling trade secrets to a competitor. It was perfect, meticulously documented, corroborated by internal memos. I built my career on that story. I won an award. I also destroyed a man's life, his marriage, his career, his reputation, all of it gone. 6 months later, the truth came out. My source was a corporate cutout. The memos were forgeries. Daniel Carver hadn't been selling secrets. He'd been gathering evidence of illegal dumping, preparing to go to the EPA. The company fed me a lie to discredit him before he could talk. And I, Ethan Hayes, the bulldog of investigative journalism, had swallowed it whole because I wanted the headline more than I wanted the truth. So now I drive. I left my apartment in New York, packed a bag, and just started driving south. I am a man running on empty, both literally and figuratively, the needle of my gas gauge hovering nervously over the red line. The road I'm on now isn't on any map I own. It's a winding, lonely back road, somewhere in the deepest folds of the West Virginia Appalachians. The trees crowd the asphalt, their branches interlocking overhead to form a dense green tunnel. It's beautiful, I suppose, in a claustrophobic, forgotten sort of way. That happens when the fog comes. It doesn't roll in. It descends. One moment, I'm driving through the green twilight of the forest. The next, my world is gone, swallowed by a thick, wet, impossibly dense white shroud. It's like the mountains themselves have exhaled, blanketing the world in a cold, silent breath. My visibility drops to less than 5 feet. I slam on the brakes, the car skidding on the damp asphalt. My knuckles are white on the steering wheel, my heart hammering against my ribs. I flick on my hazard lights. Their blinking orange glow is immediately swallowed by the fog. A pathetic, pulsing heartbeat in the void. I check my phone. No signal. I turn to my car's GPS. The screen is a blizzard of multicolored static. The calm female voice replaced by a single piercing shriek of electronic noise that makes me flinch. I jab the power button and the screen goes black. The car radio, though off, crackles to life, not with a voice, but with that same high-frequency shriek, a sound like tearing metal and dying electricity. It lasts for 3 seconds, then cuts out, leaving a silence that is deeper and more profound than before. It feels like the world just went deaf. Panic, cold and sharp, begins to prickle at the edges of my composure. I am alone, out of gas, in a fog so thick I can't see the hood of my own car, with no way to call for help. I do the only thing I can. I put the car in neutral and let it coast forward, praying the road doesn't curve. After a few minutes of this blind, terrifying crawl, a shape emerges from the white nothingness, a sign. It's old, rust-eaten, the green paint peeling. The words are faded, but I can just make them out in the weak glow of my headlights. Welcome to Silent Hill. The name means nothing to me.
It's just a name, in a port in a storm.
Beneath it, I can see the ghost of an older sign, a corporate welcome from another era. The letters are almost completely gone, but I can trace their memory in the rust stains. Heaven, wood, coal, coal. As if on cue, my car's engine sputters, coughs once, and dies. The headlights flicker and go out. I coast to a final, silent stop at the edge of a town that shouldn't exist. I sit there for a long time, listening to the sound of my own breathing. Finally, I grab my flashlight from the glove compartment and step out of the car. The air is cold, far colder than it should be for early autumn, and it smells wrong. It smells of wet ash and something else, something metallic and old, like a long abandoned mine. I look up. A fine grey powder is falling from the sky, swirling in the beam of my flashlight, like a gentle, unending snowfall. It's not snow, it's ash. I walk into the town. It's a place of profound and unsettling contradictions. The architecture is a strange, diseased blend of classic New England clapboard houses and the brutal industrial decay of a dying Appalachian coal town. Rusted mining equipment, ore carts, a skeletal conveyor belt, the headframe of a collapsed mine shaft, stands silent vigil over rotting front porches and overgrown gardens. Every surface is coated in that fine layer of grey ash. The silence is absolute. It's not just quiet, it's a dead space, a vacuum where sound goes to die. My footsteps on the asphalt are unnervingly loud. I call out, "Hello? Anyone there?" My voice doesn't echo. It's simply absorbed by the fog, a pointless, lonely sound. I'm drawn to the town's main street. I see a diner, its neon sign long dead. The windows dark, the door is locked. I rattle the handle, then press my face to the cold glass, trying to peer inside. Nothing. I turn away, sweeping my flashlight beam across the street. When I turn back, the diner door is standing wide open. My blood runs cold. I know, with an absolute certainty, that it was locked. I stand frozen for a full minute, my mind racing. Then, cautiously, I push the door open and step inside. The place is empty, coated in a thick layer of dust that covers the tables, the counter, the cracked vinyl of the booths. It looks like it hasn't been touched in 50 years. But there, on the counter, sits a single white ceramic mug. Steam is rising from it in the cold air. It's a fresh, hot cup of black coffee. I back out of the diner slowly, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. This isn't right. This is impossible. My mind, the logical, evidence-based mind of a journalist, is screaming that I'm dreaming, that I'm hallucinating. I keep walking, moving faster now, a desperate need for answers propelling me forward. I pass a small, fog-shrouded playground. The swings are rusted and still, the slides slick with damp ash, but I hear it, faintly, at the very edge of hearing, the sound of a child's laughter. It's a joyful, carefree sound that is so utterly out of place in this dead town that it makes the skin on my arms cruel. I whip my flashlight towards the sound, but the playground is empty. The laughter fades, leaving only the oppressive silence. My terror is building. A cold, tight knot in my stomach. I need something real, something concrete. I see a building with faded gold lettering on its window. The Heavenwood Chronicle, a newspaper office. My world, a place of facts, of print, of recorded history. I feel a pull, a desperate need, for the comfort of something familiar. The door is unlocked. Inside, the smell of decaying paper is overwhelming. Stacks of yellowed newspapers are piled everywhere, on desks, on the floor, teetering in precarious columns that reach towards the ceiling. I pick one up. The date is from 1974. The headline reads, "Mining Disaster Claims 12 Lives. Heavenwood, coal, vows full, investigation." I dig deeper, a frantic energy seizing me, pulling out random papers from the stacks. The headlines all seem to blur into a single mocking narrative. Corporate negligence, officials deny wrong doing, investigation stalls, key evidence missing, whistleblowers' claims dismissed as unfounded. And then, a headline that makes me drop the paper as if it had burned my hand, lies printed as truth, a town betrayed. It's my story. It's Daniel Carver's story, but it's 50 years old. That's when I hear the sound, a dry, rustling, papery sound from the back room where the old printing press sits, in silent, rusted majesty. It's the sound of dry leaves skittering across pavement, or of turning pages. "Who's there?" I call out, my voice trembling. The rustling grows louder. A figure emerges from the shadows of the printing press. It is vaguely humanoid, about my height, but it is made entirely of twisting, yellowed strips of newspaper. Its limbs are long and thin, cracking and moving at sharp, unnatural angles. Its head is a swirling vortex of spinning headlines. The words a meaningless, chaotic blur. It is a thing of paper and ink, a scarecrow made of lies. It doesn't roar, it whispers, and its voice is a layered, overlapping cacophony of my own articles being read aloud. The specific, cruel, career-making phrases I had written to destroy Daniel Carver, a man whose professional integrity has been called into serious question. A pattern of deceit and fabrication. Sources confirm Carver acted alone, driven by greed. The whispering figure takes a jerky, unnatural step towards me. Its long, thin fingers, each one a tightly rolled tube of newsprint, extend towards me. They are paper thin, but they look as sharp as razors. I don't fight. I don't scream. I turn and flee. I burst out of the newspaper office and back into the ashen, foggy street. The sound of my own words, my own lies, whispering and rustling behind me, chasing me into the cold, silent dark. The truth is a quiet whisper, easily lost in the noise of the official story. If you find value in these journeys into the shadows, let us know you're out there by leaving a like. It helps us know which signals are getting through. To ensure you don't miss our next broadcast from beyond the veil of the known, subscribe and activate the notification bell. Join our community of seekers. Stay vigilant. I ran without direction, a primal flight instinct overriding all coherent thought. The whispering of my own headlines pursued me, a rustling, papery ghost at my heels. I didn't look back. I just ran, my dress shoes slipping on the ash-slicked asphalt, my lungs burning in the cold, thin air. The fog was a labyrinth, every street corner a dead end, every building a silent, judging monolith. I was hopelessly, terrifyingly lost. Then I saw it, a light. It was a single, weak, yellow light, shining from the stained glass window of a small, clapboard church perched on a low hill at the edge of town. It was the only source of light in this entire dead world, a tiny, fragile beacon in the oppressive grey. Hope, or something like it. surged through me. I scrambled up the crumbling stone steps and pushed on the heavy oak doors. They swung open with a low groan. Inside, the air was still and smelled of damp wood and old hymnals. A few flickering candles on a simple altar provided the only illumination. A woman was sitting in the front pew, her back to me. She didn't turn as I entered. "You can close the door," she said, her voice flat and weary, as if she stayed been expecting me. It won't that keep them out, but it makes the waiting easier. I pushed the doors shut, the sound echoing in the cavernous silence. I approached her cautiously. She looked to be in her late 50s, her face a roadmap of worry lines, her hair streaked with grey. She wore a simple faded dress and clutched a small tarnished silver locket in her hands. Who are you?" I asked. "My name is Mary," she said, still not looking at me. Her gaze was fixed on the simple wooden cross on the altar. I said, "Been waiting here a long time." "Waiting for what?" "For it to be over," she said simply. "One way or another." She finally turned to look at me, and her eyes were the most tired things I had ever seen. They held a deep, ancient sadness. "You stared new." "The town is still learning you, still reading you." "Reading me?" I asked, thinking of the newspaper monster. "What is this place? What's happening?" "This is Silent Hill," she said, as if that explained everything. "Or Havenwood, as it was once called. The town, it remembers. It holds on to things, sins, guilt. It calls people who are running from something. It gives them a place to rest." Her lips twisted into a bitter, humorless smile. "This fog, this quiet world, this is the resting. This is the easy part. It's the town, observing you, learning your particular brand of sorrow. The real test comes when the siren sounds." Siren. Before she could answer, it began. A low, mournful wail that seemed to come from everywhere at once. It grew in pitch and volume, a piercing, air-raid siren that vibrated through the floorboards, through my bones, a sound of pure, unadulterated warning. Mary simply closed her eyes, her knuckles white on her silver locket. "Time for confession," she whispered. The world dissolved. It didn't fade. It peeled away. The peeling paint on the church walls flaked off in an instant, revealing not wood, but grimy, blood-stained industrial tiles. The simple wooden pews elongated and twisted, their varnish bubbling away to expose rusted, jagged metal benches. The beautiful stained glass windows shattered, the shards turning to black dust before they hit the floor, revealing a hellscape outside of impossible, grinding machinery under a blood-red sky. The air filled with the deafening clang of industry, the smell of hot metal, burning coal, and fresh coppery blood. This was the other world, and it was a nightmare made just for me. The walls of the town, visible through the shattered window, were no longer brick and wood. They were gigantic, moving printing presses, their gears grinding, their massive rollers turning, stamping out endless sheets of what looked like flayed human skin. And on the skin, printed in bloody black ink, were my headlines, my lies, my words, made manifest as the very architecture of this hell. What is this?" I gasped, stumbling back from the window. "It stips you," Mary said, her voice calm amidst the chaos. She seemed completely unfazed by the transformation. "This is your confession. The town has read your guilt, and it has built you a church to pray in." "My guilt," We all have one, she said, her tired eyes finally meeting mine. Mine was silence. My husband was a foreman at the Havenwood mine. He knew they were cutting corners on safety to save money. He knew the supports were failing. He was going to report them. She clutched her locket tighter. But the company offered him a promotion. More money. A better life for us. They told him to sign a report saying the mine was safe. And I encouraged him to do it. I chose silence. A week later, Tunnel 5 collapsed. 12 men were buried alive. My husband was one of them. Her story hit me with the force of a physical blow. The headlines I'd seen in the Chronicle office. Mining disaster. Whistleblowers' claims dismissed. The town doesn't set one punishment. Ethan, she said, her voice soft but firm. It sets. Not that simple. It wants truth. To survive the night, you have to find the place it has manifested for you, the source of your sin. You have to uncover the story you refuse to see. Where? I asked, my voice a raw whisper. The Havenwood Coal Company, she said, pointing a trembling finger out the broken window towards a massive fortress-like industrial building that now dominated the hellish skyline, belching black smoke into the red sky. Your source. I left the church, stepping out into the industrial nightmare. The whispering figures were everywhere now, dozens of them, skittering through the alleys, their papery forms illuminated by the hellish orange glow of the furnaces. Their layered whispers were a constant torment, a chorus of my own journalistic sins. The journey to the corporate office was a descent into a personalized hell. I passed a row of storefronts, but they weren't shops. They were display windows, and inside each one was a single motionless mannequin with the face of Daniel Carver, the man I had destroyed. Their mouths were open in silent screams, their eyes wide with betrayal. To progress, I had to solve puzzles that were a grotesque mockery of my profession. I found a rusted key inside a locked filing cabinet, but the cabinet was filled with writhing, severed hands that snapped at my fingers. I had to reassemble a series of shredded corporate documents, but the pieces were scattered across a floor of moving, grinding gears that threatened to pull me down into the machinery. I found an audio log on a dead security guard's radio. I played it back, but the voice was distorted, warped by the town's influence. I had to use an old audio mixer in a sound booth, adjusting the levels, filtering out the static, a phantom of my old life's work. When the voice finally came through, it was Daniel Carver. He was speaking to his wife, his voice filled with fear and determination. They know I have the real safety reports, honey, he said, his voice tinny and distant. The ones that prove they knew Tunnel 5 was a death trap. I tried to give them to a journalist, but he won't return my calls. The company, they're setting me up. They're building a story to discredit me. I don't know what to do. The recording ended. The truth was a physical weight. I hadn't just ignored the truth. I had been the weapon used to bury it. My lies hadn't just ruined his life. They had been the final shovelful of dirt on the graves of 12 dead miners. My guilt and Mary's were intertwined, two sides of the same dirty, blood-soaked coin. I finally reached the steps of the Havenwood Coal Company building. It was an island of terrifying order in the industrial chaos. A pristine black tower of glass and steel that seemed to absorb the red light of the sky. The doors slid open as I approached, inviting me in. The lobby was sterile, silent, and cold. In the center of the marble floor, a single, ornate, antique typewriter sat on a pedestal. I knew what I had to do. I had to write the story, the real one. But as I walked towards the typewriter, A figure emerged from the shadows of the far corner of the room. It was tall, slender, and wore a perfectly tailored black suit. It moved with a silent, predatory grace, but its face was a swirling vortex of headlines and redacted text. And its hands were not hands. They were giant, ink-stained, razor-sharp fountain pen nibs that dripped a thick, black, blood-like substance onto the polished floor. This was my final demon. This was the editor, and it was waiting for my retraction. The redactor didn't speak. It didn't need to. Its presence was a condemnation, a physical manifestation of my own arrogance and ambition. The swirling vortex of its face pulsed with the ghosts of my own words, the bold, declarative sentences and cutting, dismissive phrases I had used to build a throne of lies. The air grew cold, heavy with the smell of ink and old, dried blood. I took a step towards the typewriter on the pedestal. The redactor moved to block my path, not with speed, but with a silent, inexorable glide. It was a living wall of my own bad faith. It raised one of its fountain pen hands, the nib sharp enough to slit a throat, and pointed it at me. It didn't try to stab me. It tried to edit me. It touched my arm. I cried out, not in pain, but in a bizarre metaphysical violation. Where the nib touched my skin, my flesh seemed to dissolve and reform. Words appeared, tattooed on my arm in bloody black ink. Fabricated sources, unsubstantiated claims. It was rewriting me, turning my very body into another one of my false articles. I scrambled back, my mind reeling. How do you fight a monster that is made of your own worst self? How do you punch a metaphor? I couldn't. The thought was a moment of terrible, liberating clarity. I couldn't fight it. I couldn't destroy it. I could only do the one thing I had refused to do for so long. I had to confess. "You're right," I said, my voice shaking, but clear in the silent, sterile lobby. The redactor paused, its head tilting slightly. "Everything you are, everything you represent, it's true. It was me." I didn't try to get around it. I walked towards the typewriter, my eyes fixed on the machine. The redactor watched me, its ink-stained hands twitching. It let me pass. It wanted this. It wanted to see my final damning byline. I sat down on the cold marble floor in front of the pedestal. The typewriter was an old, heavy underwood, its keys yellowed like old teeth. A single sheet of clean white paper was already rolled into it, waiting. I placed my fingers on the keys. They were cold and stiff. I took a deep, shuddering breath, and I began to type. Each keystroke was an act of agony. The clack of the metal type arms sounded like gunshots in the silent room. With every letter I formed, a jolt of pain, of memory, shot through me. I wasn't just typing words. I was pulling them out of my soul, each one barbed and hooked. I wrote the truth. My name is Ethan Hayes. I am a liar. The redactor shrieked, a sound like tearing paper and grinding gears. It recoiled, its form flickering. The words on my arm faded slightly. I kept typing, the rhythm becoming frantic, desperate. I wrote about my source, the man from the Havenwood Coal Company. I wrote about the perfect, pristine file he gave me, and how I never questioned it because it was too good, too clean. I wrote about my ambition, my hunger for a prize-winning story, a hunger so strong it blinded me to the truth I should have seen. Daniel Carver was not a criminal. He was a hero. He had proof that the Havenwood Coal Company knowingly operated Tunnel 5 with faulty structural supports. He was trying to save lives, With each sentence of truth, the redactor weakened. Its form grew more translucent, its sharp, tailored suit seeming to fray and unravel like old cloth. The ink dripping from its hands thinned, turning from black to a watery grey. It was a creature sustained by lies, and my confession was starving it. Finally, I reached the end. My fingers were raw, my body trembling with exhaustion. The floor around me was splattered with the monster's inky blood. I typed the last, most difficult sentence of all. I was wrong. And I am sorry. I hit the final period with a sharp, definitive clack. The redactor let out one last, whispering, rustling sigh. Its form completely dissolved, collapsing into a puddle of black, viscous ink that quickly evaporated, leaving the marble floor clean and sterile once more. The air raid siren sounded again, but its wail was different this time. It was not a sound of warning, but of mourning, of release. The industrial hellscape outside the windows shimmered and peeled away. The grinding of the printing presses faded, replaced by the familiar, oppressive silence of the fog. I was back. I stood up, my legs weak, and pulled the sheet of paper from the typewriter. It was my confession, my retraction, the truest story I had ever written. The doors to the building slid open, and I walked out onto the steps. The town was as it had been, cold, silent, and shrouded in an impenetrable fog. I had done it. I had faced my guilt. I had won. Mary was standing at the bottom of the steps, waiting for me. Her face held the same weary resignation as before. There was no congratulations in her eyes, no relief. "You've made your peace with the town," she said, her voice a flat, empty whisper in the fog. She looked at the article in my hand. "Now you can rest here, like me." The hope that had flickered in my chest died a final, quiet death. The fog was not lifting. The ash was still falling. My confession had not bought my freedom. It had purchased my cage. As if to confirm it, a radio crackled to life from inside an abandoned, rust-eaten car parked at the curb. A calm, disembodied newsreader's voice, a voice I recognized with a sickening lurch as my own, began to speak from the static. "My name is Ethan Hayes. I am a liar." The broadcast was crisp and clear, cutting through the fog. It would not be the last time I heard it. I looked down at my hands. They were stained with typewriter ink, a deep, permanent black that I knew would never wash off. I didn't escape my story. I became it. I am just another one of Silent Hill's ghosts now. Another sad, cautionary tale, whispered in the fog. A permanent, damning retraction, broadcast on an endless loop for an audience of no one.